First of all, history was, in the past, it was not so rosy. The situation in India was much worse when there was the first invasions, Islamic invasions coming from the Middle East and from Afghanistan. And there was a war. India was not one country, it was many, many small countries. And many of them were completely conquered, and for hundreds of years. And during those hundreds of years of the reign of various Mughal leaders and so on, some of them were more liberal, like Akbar was more liberal and a good person. But there were others who were very tyrannical as well. And over those centuries, more than 200 million Indian persons were massacred. So it's probably the worst massacre or genocide against the people in the history of the world. It didn't happen all in a few years, it happened over several centuries. So great injustice took place here in India. So relatively speaking, compared to those times, things now are actually much better. They're much better. But still, there is conflict, and there is always it's a volatile situation. There's always the danger of some situation erupting. And now, of course, people have much more powerful weapons and nuclear weapons and so on. So the stakes are very high. The danger is extremely high. So it's essential that there's a dialogue between the religions. So I've been engaging with the religious leaders from around the world to promote this dialogue. And what we are trying to present is the universal spiritual science. That we can agree that there's only one Supreme Lord, and all the various persons are worshipping that one God, but in different ways. So what are the things which first unite us? Because people are quarreling over the differences. But if we examine, there's much more which unites the religious traditions and makes them much more close with each other than, to say, the mechanistic, atheistic, materialist and secular world views. So also a point that I've been making in the meetings is that when there's a conflict between the religions, then the general public who have no religious affiliation or faith, they see this as discrediting the very concept of religion itself, and so they become more atheistic and so on. So it's important that religious leaders come together and stand shoulder to shoulder in order to stem the rising tide of materialism. Because while the religions are fighting with each other, actually atheism is spreading everywhere. You see? So it's not productive for anyone. So the things which hold us together is, first of all, that there's one God who is the creator of everything. That every person, we are not the body, that we are the soul. And the soul has an eternal relationship with God. When we die, life is not over. That the activities that we do in this life have consequences in the afterlife. And everyone will have to face the consequences of their activities. One should praise and worship God. And especially we see all the religions of the world, they have a mala. The Muslims have mala, the Christians have mala, the Buddhists have mala, the Vaishnavas have a mala, and they repeat the name of God, or whatever is their concept of God, and the glories and qualities of God on the mala. So these are universal spiritual principles, and there's actually a science behind why the repetition of the glories of God purifies us and elevates our consciousness. So we are presenting research in the subject and trying to make a common platform for everyone. But at the same time, though we are endeavoring to make a common platform, we're not trying to make a syncretism or to synthesize everything into one new global religion. No, each tradition has developed in its own way, and it's suitable for those who have the samskars, the impressions related to their particular stage of development in spiritual life. So we don't want to destroy the individual character or identity of any religion, but only that through dialogue we'll understand that there's a common, universal, spiritual and scientific platform behind principles behind the varied and diverse religious practices. So our own Vaishnavism is a good model for this as well, because on the one hand, the foundational principle is bhakti, devotion to God, but we recognize that Krishna, or the Supreme Lord, can be served in Dasiras as a servant, or in Sakiras as a friend, or as a parental love, or the Madhuras, like this. And none of them are wrong. They're all different flavors of expression of love for God. So in this way, there's room for all the religions of the world to reconcile their differences and let their cultures go on and let them flourish, and let no one be atheistic and against God. They should accept one or another form of religion. You know, when Srila Haridas Thakur, he was born in an Islamic family, but he was chanting the name of Krishna, and when he was arrested and threatened that he should give up his allegiance, his devotion to Krishna, he said, there is only one God, and each person is serving and worshipping that God in the way that God in his heart is inspiring him to serve him. So we should honor that. If anyone has faith in God, then we bow down to the faith in that person's heart, because that devotion, Bhakti Devi, that faith in my heart, in your heart, is the same person. So that should be respected.
Apun Manga